Hey, happy Friday, everyone. Bass here. So week 2 is here, and let's just say, as a Packers fan, you kind of want to forget about week 1. A similar start to last year. This week, the Packers have their home opener in Lambeau Field against the Chicago Bears Sunday Night Football. So let's go over the game preview, important matchups, and things to watch for. And of course, if you are new here and want more Packers news, analysis, and updates, game previews such as this one, injury updates, and analysis, everything Packers, if that does interest you, go down, click that subscribe button, as well as turn on post notifications. All right, so this list is in no particular order, but let's get right into it. And for the first one, I have the Packers' offensive line. The offensive line had a very rough outing in week 1 for a lack of better words. Now, they only did allow 2 sacks, but that included a total of 11 pressures. Both Royce Newman and Jake Hansen accounted for 7 of those pressures. And that combination on the right side of that offensive line simply just isn't going to work. Jon Runyan also hasn't practiced all week. We'll see what happens today when that injury report does come out with his concussion injury. So if Jon Runyan can't go, which it's looking like that will be the case, which makes this Packers offensive line even more banged up, we'll assume that Zach Tom will come in, start at left guard because he's the one that came in at left guard when Runyan left with a concussion in week 1. I think Zach Tom should be starting regardless. If Runyan plays, Zach Tom should still be starting at either right guard or right tackle. I would say right tackle, and then you push Royce Newman in at right guard and just take Jake Hansen out of the equation. I think Royce Newman's an okay lineman. I think he's a better guard than he is a tackle at this point. So putting him back to guard would be most ideal. And I think that will also happen if Elgton Jenkins does return. You know, we could see if Bakhtiari or Elgton Jenkins or both end up returning. My best bet is on Elgton Jenkins. He looks the most ready to go. David Bakhtiari's been kind of taking a day on, day off, day on practice routine. We saw him not practicing yesterday. He likely will practice today, likely will pick up a questionable designation for this game, and likely will not play. I mean, we've been going over this for months and months and pretty much years at this point. So I'm not surprised to see David Bakhtiari not playing if that does indeed happen this Sunday. But I do have high hopes for Elgton Jenkins, and getting him back would really boost this offensive line. Obviously, he'd slide right in at right tackle. That's where they've kind of been practicing him. And then that would allow either Royce Newman to get pushed to right guard or Zach Tom coming at right guard if Jon Runyan plays. And overall, that offensive line would look much better, and I'd feel way more comfortable with Elgton Jenkins on one side and Yosh Nijman on the other. I think Aaron Rodgers would also agree. But if that doesn't happen, this offensive line really needs to get figured out. Now, Adam Stenavich yesterday said it'll be interesting to see who lines up at our starting offensive line. And then he said it will be a fun surprise for everyone. So I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. I'm hoping that means a fun surprise like Elgton Jenkins returns or something of that sort. But we'll see what happens. We also haven't seen really much of anything of Sean Rhyan. A little bit in the preseason, didn't look too great. So I don't think he's really in the equation right now. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But overall, I think it will be a surprise whether or not Elgton Jenkins plays, David Bakhtiari plays, Jon Runyan plays. This is just a banged up group here, and it's not ideal to have this already week 2 of the season. The next thing on my list is Aaron Rodgers meshing with the wide receivers. Last week, we saw the Packers and Aaron Rodgers not complete a pass over 20 yards. They had 2 attempts, one of which, yes, was dropped by Christian Watson, but that's kind of the point here. Another one was a bad throw on a corner route to Randall Cobb, Harrison Smith, easy interception. Aaron Rodgers needs to find these wide receivers when they're open. It wasn't a case of no one's getting open, which sometimes when you're watching the broadcast, that can look like that. You know, you can't see down the field the camera view, right? So you're thinking, oh, Aaron Rodgers sitting in the pocket forever, can't find a guy open, holds the ball too long, gets sacked, throws the ball away, whatever it may be. But watching the coaches film, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, these guys were getting open in instances where Aaron Rodgers simply missed them, or he was too flustered in the pocket when he didn't need to be. I think he was very impatient with his reads. I think he was really worried about the offensive line and getting pressured, which he had every right to be. He was pressured 11 times, and that definitely affected his reads and affected him finding a receiver downfield because, like I said, these guys were open. There was one instance where Christian Watson was wide open about 15 yards downfield on a deep dig, and Aaron Rodgers looked like he was looking right at him, but just went away from him. I don't know if he saw him, he missed him or whatnot, but these guys are getting open. We saw that first play of the game. Even though Christian Watson dropped it, this dude can fly. This dude can get open. He had the most receiving snaps out of all receivers in this game. So the Packers clearly want to implement him into this offense. And to have their first play, which is scripted, their whole first drive is scripted, to have their first play scripted, going to Christian Watson deep against Patrick Peterson is important enough. And although he did drop it, this will come back to him, and I expect him to catch it the next time and the 10 times after that. I do believe in Christian Watson. I have high hopes for him in this offense. There was little to no production from the vet guys last week, Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins. We likely will get the other veteran, Allen Lazard, back this week. So that's definitely good. He's one of Aaron Rodgers' main targets, and I think Aaron Rodgers will be looking his way. And then Amari Rodgers got 0 offensive snaps last week, and Aaron Rodgers pretty much said, oh, well, he's just returning for us, and that's really the only answer he gave us. It seemed a little weird the way he answered it, but also I don't think it's that too much to read into. I think Amari Rodgers should be getting snaps. 0 is blasphemous to me. I think he should be at least be getting some, whether that be with screens, a jet sweep, a reverse, something, because Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins, they weren't productive. I think Randall Cobb had 1 or 2 catches for minimal gains. One was a good first down on a third down, but nonetheless, they had minimal production. They had the lowest yards per route run of all wide receivers for the Packers. Dobbs and Watson were much higher. So getting Allen Lazard back will be big, but the Packers also need to implement Robert Tonyan more. I think it was probably because he was on a snap count last week due to coming back from that ACL injury, but they need to involve him more as well. Next up, I have the Packers covering Darnell Mooney. We do not need a repeat of last week. Now, Darnell Mooney is no Justin Jefferson, but this guy is no joke. Darnell Mooney is a very underrated receiver in this league. He's a very good wide receiver in this league. Now, although he only had 8 receiving yards last week, I don't think that's a good basis to go on. That was horrible conditions in that game last week for the Bears against the 49ers. They need a better game plan to cover Darnell Mooney. Will they end up shadowing Jair on him? We'll see. I don't really have an opinion there. I think they should, but I don't think they necessarily need to. This Bears wide receiver room is a lot weaker than the Vikings. I think they theoretically could play zone and be okay. But if he starts to, get open easily, just like Justin Jefferson, I think they need to adjust. They need to make that switch. They can't just sit in that soft zone the entire game and go, we'll see what happens. We can't have that again. Joe Barry may shade away from running man coverage for this entire defense again, but the safeties also have to do a better job. The safeties had a very rough game last week. Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage, they need to be on the same page so the Bears wide receivers aren't running over the middle of the field wide open. The Bears don't have much talent at wide receiver outside of Mooney at that wide receiver spot. Their leading receiver last week was Dante Pettis, who had 1 catch for 51 yards. Equanimous St. Brown also had a touchdown, so that's one thing, but the Packers obviously know him, and I don't see him as a huge threat. Overall, the Packers clearly outmatched them in this matchup, cornerbacks versus wide receivers, so this shouldn't be hard to accomplish, so I'm really hoping they don't make it harder than it should be. Now, of course, I said since it was raining last week, it wasn't a great example, but the Bears still only completed 8 passes. It shouldn't be that much of an issue for this super talented defensive backroom for the Packers to shut down this Bears passing offense. Next on my list, I have shutting down the Bears running attack, because the Bears are going to want to run the football in this game. Although they only ran for 99 yards on 37 carries last week, which is a 2.7 yard per carry average, which is just abysmal. This Bears running back room is still talented. Again, last week, I'm not really going off that week for the Bears, as we shouldn't go off that week for the Packers. I think week 1's, everything's kind of flowing together. The Bears still won, which was impressive on that comeback in that second half, but I'm not going off of that and saying, their running backs aren't good, because they are. Khalil Herbert, David Montgomery, these are 2 really good running backs, but the Packers should try to mimic what San Francisco did to hold Montgomery under 2 yards per carry. He had 1.5 yards per carry and under 30 yards. Now, that is a lot easier said than done. David Montgomery is a good running back, as I said, and the Bears will want to run the ball to get their offense flowing, to allow Justin Fields to do more, not putting it all on his back, which they shouldn't be doing. So shutting down this run game will be super important. Last week, Minnesota ran the ball for 28 times and 126 yards. That's 4.5 yards per carry, the same yards per carry that Green Bay has allowed all last year, so that needs to get lower, definitely. I believe this defense can do that, but I do expect a bounce back from this defense this week. Lastly, I have getting Aaron Jones more touches. Aaron Jones had a total of 8 touches last week, which totaled 76 yards, which is 9.5 yards every time Aaron Jones touched the ball. When you hear that stat line, you would think, give Aaron Jones the ball, right? So why didn't Aaron Jones get the ball more? I know Matt LaFleur after the game said, hey, there's no way Aaron Jones should only be getting the ball 8 times. So they're clearly going to go into this game, I think, full-fledged Aaron Jones offense. I believe that's going to be the goal, the game plan this week is give the ball to Aaron Jones. And of course, A.J. Dillon as well. I really liked what I saw from A.J. Dillon and how they used him. He also had 91 scrimmage yards, which is great, but I want both these guys to be super involved. Aaron Jones is a star. He needs the ball in his hands. This offense has to run through Aaron Jones in the run game and the pass game as well. It seems every loss in the last few years, Aaron Jones has little to no yardage, and that's because little to no touches go to him. So the Packers need to get this man the ball. And I do believe they'll go into this game feeding Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and it'll be one of those games where Aaron Jones, has over 80 yards running and over 100 receiving. In total, 180 yards scrimmage. That's what I feel from this game after what I heard from Matt LaFleur in the presser last week and after Aaron Jones getting little to no touches last week as well. But overall, Aaron Rodgers is 4-0 with the Green Bay Packers in Week 2 after a Week 1 loss in his career. And his passing stat average for those 4 games combined is 26 of 36, 325 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a quarter of an interception. I'm very confident in the Packers coming out and having a rebound game here and winning here in Week 2. It's Sunday Night Football. It's in Lambeau. It's against the division rival, the Bears. I'm super, super excited for this game. I also will be streaming again 8 p.m. Eastern this Sunday, so make sure to come on out to my stream and come hang out. But that about does it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, if you could please leave a like down below. It supports my channel a ton. But I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.